moments, there's grace for today. The coffee's on and the chaos can wait. Take a breath, lift your eyes, you're standing strong, with joy in your heart and Jesus alone. This is Monday morning moments for Catholic moms. This is Monday morning moments for Catholic moms. Wake up, mama, there's grace for today. The coffee's on and the chaos can't wait. Take a breath, lift your eyes, you're standing strong, with joy in your heart and Jesus alone. This is Monday morning moments for Catholic moms. This is Monday morning moments for Catholic moms. This is Monday morning moments for Catholic moms.
Hello and good morning to everyone this Monday morning. I'll take the 1 minute off there. It's so good to see everybody this Monday. I hope that you had a fantastic week. If you are like us, school has started today, so I hope that you have gotten those kiddos out and maybe even had a time to start a load of laundry or dishes. And if it's taking a while to get those kids out the door on the first day and you're watching us later, I want to welcome you to the replay crew. We are so glad that you are here, whether you join us live or on the replay. As always, we start with a little bit of fun, which is our Catholic saint trivia. And if I can find a biological mother who's having a feast day during the week, I will. I was unable to find one for this week. So if you know of a biological mother having a feast day this week, please help us all out and drop her name in the comments so that we can learn more. However, this Catholic saint, and I'll turn on the lights here a little bit. Ooh, kind of bright. She cut off her hair to escape an arranged marriage. She was the first woman to write a rule for nuns that was adopted by a pope. This is a very long time ago. She was best friends with a saint who preached to animals. That probably gives it away. She held up the Blessed Sacrament to stop an army attack and is the patroness of television because of a miraculous spiritual live stream. I'll let you find out about that story on your own. Go search it out. It's really interesting. Do we know? This is absolutely one of my favorites, Saint Clare of Assisi. And her feast day is today, August the 11th. She is the patroness of television, eye disease, goldsmiths, embroiderers, needleworkers, those living in poverty and contemplative life. So this is Monday Morning Moments for Catholic Moms on August the 11th. And our theme is treasure in the waiting, staying faithful when reward is delayed. And we will talk about the gospel and the psychological skill and how that all plays in. This is actually one of my favorite themes to talk about. But before we begin, Much like last week, there were a few options for the second readings and the Gospels. So, depending on where you went to Mass, you may have heard a slightly different or smaller condensed version of some of the readings. What I'm focusing on today is Luke 12:32 to 48. And this is where Jesus teaches us that where our treasure is, our heart will follow. That a vigilant servant, excuse me, does not rush or control the timing. She remains faithful in the waiting. A fool seeks comfort and indulgence, forgetting the master's return. The gospel invites us to trade urgency for trust, to stay anchored in the small hidden acts of love, so that our true treasure is not found in immediate results, but in the quiet readiness of a heart that trusts God's perfect timing. As always, you know that I like to break these readings down, a little bit of exegesis, look at some of the cultural history that may change or fill in or deepen these gospel stories. What did the original Greek say? And so there's a few we want to talk about today. When Jesus says, gird your loins and light your lamps. In Jesus's time, gird your loins meant tying up those long tunics so that you were prepared for active work or travel. This is really important because it shows that this waiting is not a passive waiting. It's a readiness that assumes movement, service, and endurance. And lighting lamps wasn't just flipping a switch like we can easily do today. If you have ever stoked a fire in Texas several years ago when we had that February freeze, we would have to get up in the middle of the night to keep the fire going. You know that faithfulness requires attention and care, even when an immediate result isn't visible. And our skill this week is delayed gratification, or more specifically, urge surfing to allow delayed gratification. That this helps trains us to be ready through steady daily choices, even when the payoff is far off or we don't know when it will end. If we look at the verse, blessed are the servants whom the master finds vigilant on his arrival. The Greek word for vigilant, and y'all know I'm not trying this, so it is right there, implies more than staying awake. It's a posture of spiritual attentiveness about being alert to God's movements in the quiet moments and in a culture without clocks. I had to think about this one for a minute. It's hard for me to even conceive a culture without clocks. Time was measured in watches, meaning the dark, uncertain hours of the night. This speaks of the emotional endurance of staying faithful when the timeline is unclear. This mirrors how delayed gratification can help strengthen us when we live in our values, even when we're not sure when something will end or pay off or a reward will be shown. It's one thing to have delayed gratification, for example, during Lent, when we know it's 40 days, or some people will do whole 30. So there's 30 days, or many in the carnivore community will do 90 days. We know when that's going to end. But for so many things in life, things that really, really matter, we don't always have an end date. And that can create a different kind of challenge in waiting. Then we turn to the verse, the master will gird himself and serve them at the table. This is a shocking reversal of roles in ancient Near East culture where the servant or the masters did not serve ever. One of the reasons I love doing exegesis is because we read these stories, we've heard the stories, they're familiar to us, and we start thinking that maybe that was the norm. But if we learn more about the culture, we actually realize what an incredible radical Jesus was from time to time, and switching up things and challenging people and kind of shaking off what was good in Jewish culture, but shaking off the dust and perfecting it. Jesus flips this script. Those who stay faithful will be welcomed into intimacy and honor, not just as slaves, but as beloved guests. And this is a Eucharistic foreshadowing, the ultimate reward deferred, where hidden faithfulness culminates, is in the wedding feast of the Lamb or in heaven. Delayed gratification is not about deprivation. This is really a really important thing to understand, and a mind shift for a lot of us. It's about making room for greater joy. Much will be required of the person entrusted with much. This is the next verse I want to look at. In this cultural context, stewardship was not just about ownership, especially in the way that I think in Western cultures today, we think about ownership when we buy something and we own it. And then we feel like in some way we are the only ones who are responsible for acquiring it, or that we can treat it however we want because we bought it. I've always believed that even if you buy something, it's still not good to destroy it for the purpose of destroying, because that says something about our relationship to the created world. This was about a trust, and Jesus redefines greatness as responsibility, not entitlement, that there's a stewardship. This isn't a warning about looming punishment. It's a call to grow in interior maturity, to be women who lead ourselves well. Take a moment and remember and pin that word lead. We will talk about that soon when we talk about internal family systems, self-leadership, but women who can lead ourselves well, even when no one's watching. I also call that integrity, doing what's right, doing what makes us proud of ourselves, not proud in a sinful way, but in a self-ownership way. Psychologically, this is the foundation of self-regulation, choosing what's right because it aligns with who you are. And we all know that whenever we aren't feeling right with where we are, when our actions don't align with our values, something's off. We can be cranky. Things are a little off center. We can be more easily angered or frustrated. And in a sense, that's good because it means your conscience is intact. But all of us who've been Catholic for more than like 5 minutes understand that when those things happen, that's when we know we need to head to confession and everything resets. And we feel so much more regulated in our nervous system, and we're able to make better choices. So that's one of the benefits of confession. Actually, if you'd like to know more about the neurobiology, the neurochemistry of what happens in confession and absolution, I did a video on that early on, and I will make sure that I put that in a link. So if you haven't seen it yet, check it out. How does this apply to Catholic mothers? Well, the truth is, we all have treasure maps. We have treasure maps in our minds, our goals, plans, checklist, things we think will lead us to peace. If I just finish this, then this will lead us to peace. I certainly understand how difficult it is to be in the middle of, for example, putting dishes in the dishwasher and you get stopped and you just want to finish, because there is an element that we do get a little bit of serotonin whenever we complete a task. But I think the piece we're probably looking for with many of our to-do list is something much more deep. As Catholic mothers, we often feel the invisible weight of keeping everything on track. Schedules, emotions, spiritual formation, endless to-dos. Meal planning is one I was thinking about yesterday. Jesus isn't asking us to stop caring, though. He's inviting us to trust that true treasure isn't in finishing faster, but in faithful presence. So delayed gratification reminds us that we don't need to feel accomplished to have true spiritual peace, because there will be times where that accomplishment doesn't have a known timeline, or that timeline isn't going to happen on our watch. We may not even know when that ends, or if it ends on this side of heaven. It helps us pause when that spiral starts. I should be getting more done. Why isn't this working yet? I'm falling behind. These thoughts aren't commands. Remember how we talked about thought diffusion and how we can recognize unhealthy thoughts like these and watch them pass in the window like clouds, like weather. So, being ready with your lamp lit as Catholic mothers might look like choosing to be patient when you want to correct harshly. And again, I'm not saying not to correct at all, but to do it with a different tone. Staying present in a task that feels unnoticed. Pausing to pray before jumping into problem solving. And there's a couple other ideas there, but if you or your group comes up with any ideas for what being ready with your lamp lit looks like as Catholic moms, spiritual mothers, and grandmas, go ahead and put that in the comments, because we're here forming a beautiful community and we want to help one another. So now we move on to our skill, which is delayed gratification, choosing the long-term treasure over short-term relief. And yes, it's true that this requires an incredible amount of executive function. So if you're someone who struggles with ADHD or neurodiversity, this will be more of a challenge for you. So it's important that you understand that, so you have self-compassion with yourself, but also not to give up on it as an adventure, as a mission, because it's always something that we can grow. When the urge to react rises up in you, you don't have to obey it. You can pause and breathe. And this is where choice lies, where we can choose virtue in that space, even when immediate results feel out of reach. So, from a psychological point of view, what is delayed gratification? It is a self-regulation skill that strengthens your ability to choose long-term values over momentary comfort or venting. If you've never thought about delayed gratification as being linked with self-regulation or nervous system regulation, then I'd like to pause and challenge you, because many times when we attempt a task that requires delayed gratification and then fall short, for example, if you've ever tried to break up with sugar or carbs and you go back to it, usually at that time, it's not because you have failed. You are weak. You are a bad person. I work with so many clients who are on health journeys. I don't like the term weight loss journeys. I like health journeys, because that can look very different for different people. And as a therapist, it's never my job to tell people what they need to be eating or what foods or diet or plan is right for their body. That's not my lane. But we all know, particularly with food, when it comes to drink or alcohol, even drugs, even some types of perfectionism or workaholism, that there's a massive psychological component that comes when we can't do the things that we want to do or know are good. That gap, that middle space, that is a place for psychology. That is a place where self-regulation, the ability to manage our nervous systems well, is at play. Because I would guarantee you, almost guarantee you, I can't make guarantees. I would almost guarantee you, for example, if you have ever tried to stop something that requires dopamine, whether it, or that gives you dopamine, whether it's sugar, carbs, alcohol, scrolling, doom scrolling, any of the things, and you have fallen off that wagon, that you didn't fall off that wagon or indulge in that behavior in a time where you were connected and regulated. It was likely in a time when you weren't. And so that is why I really want to connect these two. I know I'm spending maybe a little too much time on this, but I really want us to understand so that we're not critical of ourselves when those things happen, that we understand why, and then we know what to do about it. Why this matters for Catholic moms, we've talked about this a little bit, choosing patience over snapping back, being present. Delayed gratification, the ability to resist immediate pleasure or relief over a greater pursuit to the long-term good. I'm doing a training right now on helping men and couples with certain internet addictions. We'll just say that for you too. And one of the most incredible switch or redefinition that I learned from one of the teachers was that sobriety, however you define that, is a total commitment to reality, not escaping reality, to being present. That mental health is a total and absolute commitment to being present in reality and not trying to escape it. Whereas addiction, however you define that, whatever that may look like for someone, is escaping reality or being present in the moment at any cost, sometimes even till death. So I think that's a very interesting interplay here. The cornerstone of emotional maturity and self-regulation shows up in the ability to delay gratification. If you haven't heard about the marshmallow test, I learned about this and I believe it was Psych 101. Fascinating. They found that kids who could wait for a bigger reward. So what they did, I'll put a link if I can find one. They brought kids into a room and they said, here's a marshmallow. You can have it now, or if you wait until I come back, then you can have two. And they did this with really little kiddos. And then they followed those kiddos all the way through. I think it was even high school and adult life. It was a long longitudinal study. And they found that the kids who could delay gratification at an early age had better life outcomes almost as a whole. That's how important this skill is. And there can be a spiritual side where for where your treasure is, there also your heart can be. Although I want to encourage us not to over spiritualize this, realizing that there is a middle space where self-regulation comes in. Motherhood is filled with tasks that don't give immediate payoffs. I certainly do not need to tell you that. Folding the same laundry, again. Correcting the same behavior, again. Asking the kids to keep the right side of the sink clean, again. Sorry, I digress. Praying for intentions with no visible results. The brain craves dopamine hits and quick rewards and relief. But a life of virtue asks for us to choose eternal treasures over those immediate satisfactions. If you have not heard of Viktor Frankl or read his life-changing book, Man's Search for Meaning, please put that on your list. That being said, when you have an urge to react, whether it's to yell, to quit something, to escape, to rush, to step out of reality for a moment to get some maybe unhealthy relief, you have a sacred pause that's available. And in fact, Viktor Frankl, one of his most famous sayings, although I would say he's probably got a laundry list of famous sayings because he's incredible. He says that in the space between stimulus and response, between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response to any situation. And I can understand. I get DMs from you guys. I know we have people that watch from over 100 countries, that there are some of you who are in incredibly difficult, painful situations that are dealing with unimaginable sufferings. So if it feels trite to hear, oh, okay, there's a space where I can choose, what does this guy know? I may not have earned that place at the table, but Victor certainly has, because he was a prisoner at Auschwitz. And he knew that even there was so much he couldn't choose, but the one true freedom was his response. So delayed gratification happens in that space. We also know that repeated small choices shape the heart. Virtue is a habit. Neuroscience shows that repeated choices actually strengthen neural pathways. So remember, as hard as it is to delay this urge, or to not indulge in this XYZ thing, whatever that is, or to do this XYZ thing, which are a little bit different, that it will continue to get easier, because every time we go through a neural process, we think a thought, we say a thing, it actually primes the brain and makes it more easy for that thought to happen next time, which can be great if we're doing gratitude and positive affirmations. It can be bad. You can see how this could create really stuck loops with anxiety or depression. Every time you choose to pause, stay faithful to that long-term good, you are actually rewiring your brain towards virtue. I would say that so much of virtue formation is actually brain change. That doesn't mean that it's not virtuous, but brain change is the means by which virtue happens. The Catechism reminds us that virtue is a habitual and firm disposition to the good. How are some ways to practice delayed gratification? 1, name the urge. Just name it. Just call it out. Making the invisible visible is a key component of theology of the body and of therapy and of mental health, I would say, as well. I feel like quitting right now. I feel like quitting right now. I would like to eat that donut right now. Pause and breathe. Give yourself 10 seconds before acting. Visualize the treasure. What's the long-term virtue? What long-term virtue am I choosing? The more visible you can make this, meaning in your imagination, what does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it smell like? What does it sound like? Can you feel yourself in that place? That helps make it this invisible concept of success, whatever that means, in the future. And when you make it more visible using imagination, it helps for it to be more real and alive. And then offering it up in the correct way of offering it up, which means choosing consciously to turn the discomfort into a prayerful offering. You could also say, give meaning to that struggle. And then small rewards later. Plan a healthy reward after perseverance, like prayer time, quiet coffee, etc. If you are also someone who, for mental or physical health reasons, is avoiding sugar or carbs, I suggest writing an entire list of things that you find sweet. Not food, but experiences or things you find sweet, and have those ready, at the ready, so that you can use them when you want to go that direction. I want to teach you, though, a very specific skill that a lot of people, if you've ever gone through addiction treatment, or sometimes 12 steps will talk about this, but we all experience urges. And if you remember a few Monday mornings ago, we talked about we have an emotion, and each emotion has an action urge with it, because emotions give us information about the environment and give us energy to act. Delaying gratification sounds like a great idea. But how do we put the rubber to the road? And you know that here, the Catholic Counseling Institute, we want to give you real tools for real life. So urge surfing is that tool. Urge surfing is a mindfulness skill, properly understood mindfulness, that helps you ride out the wave of strong emotion or impulse without acting on them. Instead of fighting the urge, which some people call white knuckling, I don't prefer the term, but in AA, they talk about, what is it, like white knuckling sobriety? Yeah, that basically someone has stayed sober, but they haven't done the work. So it's this constant fight and struggle. They're just kind of holding their breath through it. You picture it like a wave, cresting, crashing, and falling. Steps to surf this urge wave. Notice the urge. I feel the urge to yell, to escape, to fix something right now, to overperform in a relationship. Name the wave. This is frustration and it is rising. And then we breathe and balance. Remember that, much like surfers, one of the most powerful tools we have to balance our nervous system is the tool or gift, I would say, of our breath. Stay present. Remember, if we define mental health as a total commitment to stay present to reality, stay present and let the wave pass. The urge will peak and fall naturally. And then this is where, on the other side of it, you have more freedom to choose virtue. I think this is really important information because when we are in the middle of an urge wave, it can feel like forever. It can feel like forever. If I do not eat this donut now, I'm going to carry that with me forever. But the truth is that most emotional urges, like the urge to yell or to grab for control, peak and pass within 90 seconds if you don't fuel them, which means you aren't aligning with that urge and giving yourself all the reasons why it's a good idea to act out on it. So here's the pattern. 0 to 30 seconds, the urge will rise. That is the worst of it. It's a lot like labor, right? 30 seconds to 60 seconds, it reaches its peak of intensity, and then 60 to 90 seconds, it will start to fall. And if we engage in the urge, like ruminating, reacting, venting, then we re-trigger this cycle, but we also strengthen that neural pathway. Our attention sends blood flow, which strengthens neural pathways. This is a wild concept that we can use our mind to change our brain. If we pause and breathe, the wave passes. And the more you do this, the easier it gets. I'm not saying easy, the easier it gets, and the more confidence you have in yourself to ride that wave. Remember that God is forming you in the waiting. Catholic motherhood is a vocation of hidden faithfulness, much like St. Clare, many of the times. Delayed gratification is not about self-deprecation or self-deprecation or deprivation. None of the two. It's about making room for God's grace to work in you. When you stay present, remember, present to the reality of the present moment. This is where mental health is. This is where the opposite of addiction, which I would say freedom, is. And those small yeses of today, you're storing up treasures where moth and rust cannot destroy. Much will be required of the person entrusted with much, but also the place of psychology, neuroscience, understanding how these things work, how virtue is formed, what's involved with the brain. Some people aren't interested in that and don't need it. For me, it's always been super helpful to understand how these integrate. And so this is part of what I'm trying to do here. Remember that you can get your handouts with the link in the description or the QR code. This is the incorrect one for this week. Oh, well, then let's just talk about the recipe since I clicked on that first. Cheesy zucchini fritters. Easy, low carb, low inflammation, kid friendly. Remember that I used to just provide a handout with the information about the skill, which would be this, and that is there. By popular request, which is why it's so important you're communicating with me. You guys know where to find me. Drop a note in the comments. There's a place that you can text. You can email me, Amber@CathCleansing Institute. This is where I know what's working for you, what you need more of, and what you don't like. By popular request, we now have several other worksheets just to help you instill this skill and work with it a little more. Remember, none of it is homework. You do not turn this in at all. This is just for you, should it help. I hope you were able to journal at the beginning. If not, you can go back to that. But let's take just a few minutes in real time while I share with you our song for this week. Go back to what you journaled before and say, if Jesus said, where your treasure is, there also your heart will be. What treasures am I storing up by daily faithfulness in small daily tasks? How does focusing on God's eternal rewards help me stay grounded in seasons of hidden work or waiting? Or you could just do some free journaling about what you have maybe come to understand about delayed gratification, or if you've been really hard on yourself before, that missing link, or what you would need. And maybe even identify a specific thing you'd like to work on with delayed gratification. As you do that, we will listen to this week's song, and then I will be
in the quiet, you are near. In the hidden, you are here. Every breath, a gift of grace. Every step, I see your face. Joy I cannot see, holding on to heaven, you are shaping me. Faithful in the silence, steady through Jesus, in your timing, all will be restored. When the answers take their time,
right, welcome back. What do you guys think? I have so much fun making these songs. Remember that I'm, by popular request, adding them to a playlist, Melodies for Motherhood. And so if you want to just go to that playlist and hit play, you can hear all our songs while you do all of your mommying things. Our self-challenge, because I want to leave you with practical tips, is to pause before you react. This week, I want you to start recognizing the urge and then consciously thinking about that 30, 60, 90 seconds. Your marriage challenge is choosing virtue over the last word. Not having that last word, in many cases, is an issue of impulse control. Delayed gratification, we could say, but also self-regulation. So notice that as an urge as well. Your parenting challenge is to notice the hidden moments of formation. In this week, be intentional about staying present in a task or correction that feels tedious or unnoticed, and resist the urge to rush for results. Here's your seasonal heads up. It's back to school time. You all know that. Feast of St. Clare is today. The Assumption of Mary, August 15th. Late summer fatigue is real. So this is the time for simple tasks and getting ready for harvest time coming up, and a switch into the fall where you'll start seeing some more fall recipes from us. Your home task, if you're following along, my challenge is this week to practice delayed gratification by letting go of one small item each day that no longer serves your home or family, and to focus in the hidden spaces, the junk drawer, the shelf, the basket. That's the place where clutter starts to build quietly, and to resist the urge to keep something just in case, or for just in case comfort. This just in case, of course, there's a line, we want to be prudent, but this just in case is where so much clutter happens. I also would like to share, by popular demand, something that has been added to the handouts. Now, if you are out there and you are joining us live and you're in your home or in your car, or taking your walk with your earbuds, and you're just one person, I want you to know that you are always welcome here. You are the primary group that I started creating these Monday mornings for. However, there have been some groups of women that have been forming around the country, where they find a day and time where they meet sometime in the week and they watch the broadcast. Hello, my San Antonio group. I have one in Michigan and Pennsylvania, I think. And so for those groups, I am going to start providing some discussion questions if you like them. And also an idea of kind of an outline if you want to lead a meeting. And lead a meeting literally just means read through the outline. My suggestion, so that it doesn't ever fall on one person, is just rotate who leads. And leading just means you're the one reading the questions. I also have provided an email template if you would like to start a group, so you don't have to think of what you want to say, just copy paste and send it off to your friends. There are also some groups who want to get together, but they can't physically get together, whether it's distance, logistics. So I did the exact same thing for any Zoom groups. And if you would like to be a part of a Zoom group, but you have no one in your area, please send me a text at the number there, or at Amber at Catholic Counseling Institute. Give me your name and number, and I'll see if I can help connect you with some people. Same thing, that the outline, the group questions, and then an email template if you'd like to send it out to friends. Final reminder, if you would like to just get these every single week in your inbox, so you don't have to put in your email each time, there's a link in the description and a QR code there so that you can do that if you just want to once and done and never have to worry about it again. Or if you miss a week, you just know that you have the handouts. That's perfectly fine too. Survival mode homemaking is done. This course is done. I'm so excited to share with you all the things that I've learned in some of my survival moments that help with homemaking. And remember that surviving the first 30 days after affair disclosure or pornography disclosure to support you or a friend as the woman. These are free courses. They will always be free. Some of the priests in the San Antonio Archdiocese are sharing these already. So they are there, and coming soon will be a grief course. Let us end with prayer. The Holy Spirit, thank you so very much for spending part of your Monday morning with me, with all of us. We got up to 6 live viewers. It's amazing. If you're part of the replay crew, you are so welcome here too. And thank you so much for coming. Check out the Catholic Counseling Institute, because I'm working on a cool video this week that I want to share with you about one of my most underrated, I won't say hacks, but tools holistically for mental health. I'm working on that. And thank you so much for those of you who watch and subscribe. We're at like 850 subscribers. If we get up to 1,000, then we're well on our way to monetization, which, YouTube gives you pennies. But here's why it's important. Once you're at that benchmark, then YouTube will push us out to so many more people that don't even know that we're here. So 850 blows my mind. Never even imagined that. But since we are close to 1,000, let's just aim for it. I hope you have a fantastic week, dear sister. And I will be right back here waiting for you next Monday at 9.